What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the show. Cliff, I don't know if you know this, but this is a new show I have. It's called Surviving Big Brother. And you are our first guest,
Perfect
episode
combination,
1,
Russell.
right? So
Well,
now we
I'm
have
honored to be the first
here.
guest. I'm always honored to be talking to a legend of Survivor, Russell. Man, it's my pleasure.
All right, man. Yeah, I wanted to. Every live eviction, we're going to have a new guest from Big Brother, an alumni, come on and talk about the show. This is going to be a little different. We have Cameron and a few other shows that we have earlier, and they break down the episodes. Since I have a different Big Brother guest, I like to break down the actual players and exactly what they're doing, if we agree on what they're doing, and things like that. So we won't be talking all about the episode. I'm sure sometimes we are. We'll most definitely will be talking about who was evicted, which would be Keisha today, and who wins the HOH. Not always do we know who wins HOH, correct? Sometimes it goes into the right. So we know now. We know that Memphis wins HOH, and we'll talk about that a little bit later and who he's targeting. Now, when it comes to this cast, do you agree with the All-Stars in the cast? I know you was on Big Brother 21 and you played with Nicole Anthony. Now,
yeah, and David as well.
Okay, so do you agree? Are you okay? Not much in agreeing. I mean, I know they got super All-Stars out there and everybody's different. Yeah. Versions of an All-Star is different. But are you okay with these All-Stars?
I'm pretty good. I mean, there's some people that won or came close to winning that didn't make it on for various reasons. But I think they did a good job. There's all kinds of ways to define an all-star. And the thing I like is they got a lot of people from a lot of different seasons with a lot of different playing styles. Some people are really great players. Some of them are big personalities. Some of them, like David's, kind of a redemption tour getting to come back on. So I'm pretty cool with it. It works for me.
Right. I don't know if we're going to have bad internet. Sometimes I get through without bad through it sometimes. But so, yeah, as the game goes along, first of all, when they started the game, they had lots of rumors. Man, I don't know if it's Big Brother or but when Survivors, there is rumor, it's not as catty as it is in the Big Brother world. When the rumors started, it's like it was crazy how was so much, Nicole did this, Nicole did that, Dan, Derek, everything was just out in the open. And why do you think it's that intense when it comes to the rumor mill of Big Brother?
Yeah. Well, I think it's two things. One, because it's all-stars, everyone in there already has developed a little bit of a fan base that feels very partial to those people and very protective of them out in the social media world. But a lot of it, Russell, I think is just the fact that they've got these live feeds on Big Brother. The fact that the people who are really invested in this show can be watching 24/7. And so they really get even closer to feel like they're relating to those of us in the house. And I talk to people out there who it just almost becomes a family type situation because people feel like they've gotten to know you so well because there's people who sat there and watched me sleep at night and can tell me how I snore and things like that. So when you get to that level, there are people that are very invested in the people that they're cheering on.
Right. And it's, I like to compare the two because I played in some constantly comparing it now. It's so mental, and it's like the whole thing is so mental. It's intense, but so a Survivor, this Survivor has. I'm just bringing up Janelle and Christmas on the live feeds were talking about that they wanted to play Survivor, and Christmas says, I would love to play Survivor because it's less chaotic, and I'm like, what? Less chaotic? I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, we could sit here all day long and compare the two. Both of them extremely chaotic. In the house of Big Brother, you have comforts. Even if you have slop, you have comforts. You know, in the world of Survivor, the slop, we would love to get the slop. We absolutely love it. You know, so I can remember going 10 days without eating anything. So it's just two different games, both very, very hard. And I respect both games. So right off the bat, they get in the house and we see Nicole. Man, she's breaking down. It looks like that she cannot put it together when it comes to. I don't know if it's because Nicole is used to playing with someone that has her back 100%, and that she's able to lean on that person. I don't know what it is.
Are you talking about Nicole Franzel or Nicole Anthony?
Nicole F, of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, you've been in the house. As you see Nicole F break down like she is and crying, and immediate day 2, she was already breaking down. Get it and say, I get it.
Yeah. It's here's the thing. When you first start in that house, and this is maybe a difference between Survivor and Big Brother a little bit. For y'all, you start in a tribe of 8 people. When we start in a house, you got 16 people, and everyone's trying to develop relationships with everyone because you get a bit of a power. You're trying to figure out who's gonna be in charge that first week or so, and where the alliances are going to fall. So you want to get in good with everyone. And so it is so chaotic that first week with everyone trying to be involved in every single conversation and keeping track of it. And I think some people, Nicole, maybe Franzel a little bit, just got a little, it's easy to get overwhelmed in there trying to figure out who's telling the truth, who's not, who you can trust, who you can't trust.
But she's to get herself into, like, when so her breaking down like that to me showed me she wasn't ready to play. Now, I'm not saying that she can't get it together, but it just shows a lack of on the run. Not it's a marathon though, so she could get it together and get a little further later on. You never know.
And that's the thing. There's different stages of this game, similar to Survivor. You've got your beginning where it's all about pulling in as many people, developing the relationships. In the beginning, I kind of, as your old friend Sandra used to say, as long as it ain't me, I'm cool. And there's some of that to begin with. Yeah. And later you get more into the strategy side of it. And so even if people are a little overwhelmed in the beginning, doesn't mean once things start settling out and you figure out who's on what side that you can't jump in and play quite the game.
Yeah, that strategy, as long as it's not me in the Big Brother world, that strategy, do you think that it works? That's a great strategy at first, I think. Yeah, I think for the first 3 weeks or so, that's a great strategy. But is that a long-term strategy?
No, I think eventually you've got to make some commitments. You've got to have some connections and put yourself out there occasionally to survive long term. Short, and a lot of it, Russell, depends on what kind of game ends up being played, and that varies from season to season. If you've got 2 strong sides and you haven't committed to one or the other, it may be easier just to pick off those neutral people in the middle. Whereas, for example, my season last year, where there was one big strong alliance, at that point in time, I knew for me it was a matter of as long as it's not me for the first few weeks, because as numbers dwindle, that alliance will fall apart, and then they can use me to jump in. So a little bit of it depends on season to season and just how these first few weeks break out and what happens.
And there's a few people that I see as long as it's not me strategy, and one of them was Keisha. It seemed like she was on the down low as long as it's not me. So that's a perfect example of not actually working immediately when you get into the house. What happens? That's right. Because
I think
there was really no rhyme or reason. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. And for a lot of people, you can say as long as it's not me and just hope that other people are the bigger targets. I think one of her big issues is when it became obvious that maybe it is you, that she was not proactive enough and didn't do what it took then to try to get the target moved elsewhere. She just kept waiting and hoping that her friends would help her out. And it gets down to it where you say, hey, I can't help you anymore. I got to watch my own rear end at this point in time.
And I respected the fact that I don't like Janelle already. I mean, I just don't like her, but that's my preference. But as the seasons go along, you're going to see, and I like Christmas. A lot of people hate Christmas,
Yeah.
but I give credit where credit's due. That's how I am as a person. And when I watch these things and I see Janelle, you got to give her Janelle, in case of respect, for voting for Keisha, because they wanted to keep her. You go with the house, you do the right thing, you stay how you have to, because that was a vote for Janelle, and she knows good enough to have saved Keisha, but I don't think she thought it was way too early to start fighting like that.
Yeah, you're right, and there was a lot of discussion about that earlier in the week with Kaiser and Janelle about, do we really fight hard to try to save her, or do we keep ourselves low under the radar and just let her be collateral damage? Because they do run the risk, if they fight too hard, that it becomes even more an old school versus a new school, two sides bumping heads, and they may not have the power to want to face that particular battle. So I think it was smart that they kind of backed off and said, hey, it's Keisha, it's not. And we know that she wanted to save her, but she backed off and let it happen, and I think that was smart.
Well, she's a very smart girl, so the Keisha, she would have that one vote. She would have that one person on her back.
That's right.
She would have had her in a hole, and it would have been guaranteed. But she knew that it was impossible by sitting and listening, because she even said, she's going to have to do some work here. Like, I can't do this right now. So
that's right.
If I played this game, it would be different for me, because I would have to hold that part back. I'm the type that would want to save and that would want to fight for my alliance. So I think that that's one thing that I can learn if I ever played the Big Brother house. I don't know if that's possible, but if I ever did, that's one thing I can learn from watching Janelle, being able to, knowing that she wants to keep her, but still being able to step back and saying, you know what, I'm not stepping into this bullet right now. It's too early for me to do this.
You've got to be so careful, because in Survivor, you've got the immunity challenge that protects a person, but everyone else is still vulnerable. Whereas in Big Brother, one HOH person can then put two people on the block, and suddenly you can see a lot more swings of power, I think, in Big Brother than potentially a Survivor. And as a result, you can never be so comfortable that your alliance is going to protect you, because sometimes you just don't have the votes if someone on the other side is putting all of your people up on the block and all. So you have to tread very lightly in the beginning of this thing.
Right. As long as it's not me, I'm going to get back to that a second here, because I think also Christmas is playing like that right now. But everybody seems to go up to her and talk with her. But when they do, because I watch the live feeds as well, and I'm not going, there's no spoilers to give because it's all done. But when I'm watching Christmas, I notice that she listens to everyone. She takes it in, and she never really gives her opinion too harshly, except for the Keisha thing that she, that she said. And I think that's I think that that's a perfect way to play at this point. Ian is kind of doing the same thing, but for some reason, Memphis, I think he put Ian up. He doesn't really like Ian for some reason. I don't know what that reason is, because he's a winner. Do you think that they're saying, oh, these winners got to go, but it's deeper than that?
Yeah, I think eventually that's going to come into play. That's going to be an excuse that they use to bump potentially Ian or Nicole Franzel. I think right now, some of it, Memphis, for example, he came in really wanting to try to distance himself from Janelle and Kaiser and Keisha by setting up this little alliance with Cody and their little grouping. And so I think Ian, it depends. I was really coming in saying this HOH, if someone from the old school side like a Janelle or a Kaiser won, I could see old school versus new school taking shots at each other back and forth. With Memphis winning this thing, as we just saw, I think the people who are kind of neutral may be in a little bit of danger. Ian, Nicole Anthony as well. I think they could, David perhaps, although I think David will be protected by the site and power. I think they could be in trouble. Or, and I may be jumping ahead a little bit, or it could be that they go after the powers on the other side, Janelle and Kaiser, and go that direction as well.
Yeah. Well, Memphis went on his own and talked, and it's like he had a piece of paper and wrote down everyone's name that he wanted to work with. Then he went on his own to each individual person, only those people, to talk to them about, I don't know if they named that alliance or whatever. I'm not into that name and alliance thing.
Everyone wants to name their alliance, and I've always thought that was a bad idea, because once you put a name on it, it's so much easier for someone to recognize it and call you out on it. But people think it's cute to have their names on their alliances.
Right. So he did some work. He put some legwork in. Now that thing that he put together himself was just a joke. Not a joke, but the people were like, I don't know about this. Now those names become solid in stone because he just won HOH. So that little list that he put together, now they're going to come up to him and say, "We got this, man." They'll jump on his back now.
Oh yeah. So those six people, because Cody was HOH, now Memphis is HOH. You get the same little alliance with 2 HOHs in a row, and that gives you a lot of time to consolidate a lot of power, and a lot of people coming to kiss up to you and kiss the ring and do whatever they need to do.
Right. So now that little list that he put together now becomes a real deal thing.
That's right.
And he's the one that put it together. So all these people are going to go up to him and hit him, give him high fives and say, "We did it." You wasn't even going to go that route until he just won HOH. So we may see that list do really well in this game. So if you have one of them in your fantasy, if all of the Big Brother thing, then your Ian just happens to be my captain position, which I'm not happy about, because I think Ian and Nicole, you're right. So do you think that he's going to do something like that, or put some big boys up and put Kaiser and Janelle up, or Ian and Nicole up? Because this safety stuff, man, these safe people, it's not fun to watch.
No.
Oh, let's put up the people that's not really doing that much.
My guess, and it's just a guess at this point, but my guess is that Memphis probably would not put Kaiser and Janelle up, because he's got this group of 5 other people and himself as one alliance. If something weird ever happens, he's always got this fallback of the old school people that he may think he can kind of work with on down the road as well. It may be easier just to put up the people who are kind of the outliers that don't have a lot of loyalties right now, which would be Nicole Anthony, Ian, David, Kevin. I don't think he'll put up Kevin again, since Kevin just came off the block. But sometimes people just go up over and over again. But yeah, I tend to think he's going to go that direction, unless he just gets a lot of pressure from the others in that group to go ahead and take out the big targets, which would be the Kaiser and Janelle. And he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's going to just listen to them and do what they want. I think he'll protect his game, which may be going for the independents at this point in time.
Right. Yeah. But what's interesting is just he won't Ian off so bad that he would actually usually when you backdoor someone, like, you really want them gone. Like, that's your target. You really, really need it to happen. Go ahead and put them both up, and or will he?
I missed the end of that, Russell, but I think that you're right. A backdoor is kind of when you're going after someone that you feel athletically or competition wise, you're worried about them. I don't think it's going to go that extreme at this point. I think Memphis is going to put up 2 people that he feels don't really have his back protected, that don't really help his game any. If one of them gets safety, if one of them comes off the block, then he won't hesitate. He won't have a problem then turning around and putting up a an Ian or a David or a Kevin if he has to, and just say, hey, if I had to put up someone else and that's it. But I don't think there will be an intentional.
Do you feel that?
I don't think there'll be an intentional backdoor plan. If they have to put someone else up, they will, but I don't think it'll be planned going in.
Are you kind of worried about Nicole Anthony's spot at this point with him winning?
I am worried. She is a little bit tight with Janelle and Kaiser, which puts her a little vulnerable. People are scared of Janelle and Kaiser. Maybe that means they target them, but maybe it means they leave them alone and they just pick off some of the people that they think are supporting those two. And so, I think Nicole, one, she aligned herself so tightly with Kevin, who I think is kind of a lone wolf independent in the house. And so as much as Nicole likes having someone that she can absolutely depend upon and rely upon, Kevin isn't, he doesn't have the connections that necessarily helps her game, I don't think. And so, I think everyone likes Nicole. I don't think they're going to get rid of her because I see her as a huge threat right now. I think it's more just that they think they can maybe get rid of her without getting a lot of people upset with them. And so Nicole is one of those handful of people that I think falls into that category. But I'm a little bit worried about this week. Especially Russell. Here's the other.
Let's say it's easy.
No, I was going to say the other thing is we still have that safety comp. So some people can come in this week and 2 more people can get saved. So by the time you take Memphis's alliances that he's already created, and now if someone wins safety that isn't part of that alliance and pulls off someone else, Memphis may have limited options of who he actually wants to put up that doesn't upset his alliances.
Right. What I don't want to see is, let's say they do put up Ian and Nicole Anthony. Will we see the same exact scenario of, let's say they gun for Nicole Anthony that we just seen with Keisha, like almost like not that much of a fight. You've played with Nicole. If she's on the block, is she gonna fight? Or would fight to stay in the game?
Or it's tough because the first time she was on the block. Yeah, the first time she's on the block, she was against me, which was tough because we were tight with each other, and neither one of us wanted that. But I think Nicole, especially given another week, now she's starting to figure out who's where in the house a little bit more. I think she has the relationships and she has the ability to communicate with Davon, for example, with David, with some of the people that may have connections with that big alliance, to buy herself using some promises and those relationships to buy her another week, if possible. And I think she'll go out of her way to say, hey, you know how strong and powerful Ian is. And of course, we're just supposing that it's those two, and who knows, but whoever she's against, I think she will go out of her way to try to say they're a threat. I'm just nice, friendly, innocent Nicole, and I'm here to help you any way possible. And trust her ability to fight through the game, but I hate that she's in the position that she may be facing that kind of fight coming up.
Yeah. And it's Ian's a very easy one to say, are you kidding me? He beat Dan. Like he legitimately beat Dan because he was the better player that season. So it's like, this guy right here, Amia, you really want him to stay around?
But he also has his final 2, I guess they're calling final 2 with Ian, with Nicole Franzel, because they're the only 2 winners in the house. And I know she's really worried about being the only winner still in the house. So I think she would go out of her way to try to protect Ian or potentially even keep him off the block. And there's people like Cody who have already said, hey, Ian is dangerous. He is extremely dangerous. But everyone, I think, is still cocky enough to say, yeah, but we'll deal with that later. I think it's easier to deal with someone that you see as a big competition threat, an athletic threat, for example, as opposed to someone who maybe is a strategic threat that you aren't seeing that being played out quite as much in the early stages of the game.
And we have a comment here I want to talk about. Russell just said Ian was a better player than Dan. No, I didn't. I said he was better that season.
Yeah.
Didn't he win? Didn't he win that
Yeah,
season?
no,
Yeah,
he
just
did win.
saying.
Ian
Right.
came up with a new way to win the game. It was quirky. It's just like Ian. He's kind of a quirky guy, but he figured out a way to make it work. And so, props to Ian for playing the game. Dan, they're just different styles of playing the game. They're both very social, very strategic, but still different games.
And now, do you think that Ian, he is trying to lay low at this point? We've seen that happen with Keisha, Kevin as well. When they first started, they were laying low a little bit. They got put on the block. We may see another two that's kind of laying low. If it's Ian and Nicole that gets put on the block again, that's not really playing. And if they keep Janelle and Kaser in this game long enough, they're going to take they're going to be the ones to take root and start taking control of this game.
Yeah, and here's the deal, and we keep saying Ian and Nicole, Anthony, and that's just it's a guess, but who knows? But I think maybe it was last night in the live feeds. I think it may be Danny Donato Danny who was talking to Cody, saying Janelle and Kaser are picking up all of these outliers and trying to bring them into their fold, and so that's why I do think there's going to be that expectation or desire to nip it in the bud. But you're right. And Kaser and Janelle, neither one have power. They played in the safety comp, so they can't compete this particular week. So there may be people saying, hey, let's go ahead and put them on the block while we still have a chance before some other twist comes along. And next thing you know, we can't put them up when we want to put them up. So, yeah, it just depends on how risky you want to be in the first week or two. And for a large part, in a lot of Big Brother seasons, people don't take the big risk in the very first week or two. It's a little bit further when there's fewer people that you start taking the risk. So, because as you said, it's a marathon game, and no matter what you do, if you go after a big fish and it doesn't work out, or you go after a big fish and then that big fish comes back into the house in some kind of battle back, suddenly you got a big opponent that's coming straight for you. So you play low in the first few weeks.
Yeah, man, they got so many. The bromance drives me crazy. I mean, you got Memphis, Cody, Tyler, Enzo. It's like, it's like, come on, guys, get it together. You can play with Janelle. You can play with Nicole. You can, like Nicole, even Nicole A. But when you think that someone like Janelle spots this all day long, and she's like, I know what's going on here. And as soon as she wins, she puts up Cody and Tyler or something.
Oh, yeah. Janelle's old school. And
like
I think
that.
old school.
His hands dirty right now.
Yeah. Janelle is old school. And I think old school is sometimes a little less concerned about the risk. I could see her making a big move, saying, man, guys, no, I'm not waiting. While I've got the power, I'm putting you guys up. One of you can go home, and don't mess with Janelle. She's the kind of personality that'll do. She won't tiptoe around. She'll go for the big targets if she gets up.
I don't know if Memphis is thinking straight, and because he may very well be thinking the Ian thing. But if he's thinking straight, because as soon as Nicole wins, mark my words, two of the boys are going up. And it's probably going to be Memphis and Cody now, because she's going to see this. She's going to say these two can run the table back and forth all game long, and we can't allow that to happen. So
I could see Janelle. I could see her easily saying, look, a guy versus a girl in this first episode, and the girl went home. These guys are in power. Two guys in a row of one HOH. We don't do something to get out these alpha males, just like so many seasons in the past, they're going to run the table to some extent. So I can see those arguments getting thrown out there. But we got to get past this week first. And unfortunately, there is an alpha male who's in power. So you got to be careful and then be nice and quiet and reserved for a little bit longer.
Right. And so do you think we're going to know in the live feeds tonight? Do you think Memphis is that type of cat to where he'll be like, these are who I'm putting up?
He's going to have a lot of people popping upstairs to talk to that guy. Typically, when you have an HOH, you'll have the nomination ceremony the next day. So sometime tomorrow morning, we'll probably that he'll be asked to actually nominate the 2 people he wants to put up. So he's got to make some decisions pretty quick. And I would guess there's going to be a lot of people on his side saying, man, go for Janelle and Kaiser and put them up, because they see him as a risk. It's no skin off their backs. If he does it and it backfires, they're coming after him, not these other people. So it's easy for them to push him along. But there's something inside me that makes me think he may still be looking at them as potential allies down the road, because they're from the earlier parts of Big Brother, just like he is. So he may be less willing than they are pushing him to do. And that's why going after some of the people aligned with Kaiser and Janelle may be a way for him to keep his alliance happy while still protecting some people that he thinks may have his back during the later stages of the game. But it would certainly be a power move to go after those 2 right now.
That would be the big move. That would be a huge move. And to me, I think that's the best move. To me, because I'm an aggressive player, that's the best move. For you, what move would it be? Would it be just forget the fact that Nicole Anthony? Just go in there. Would you put the easy targets, or would you gun for the big boys?
I think, I think being Memphis, I would probably shoot for the easier targets, with the perception that if I do that, I'm not necessarily going to have either side coming, any of the big players coming after me. In my season, the first time I got HOH, I immediately put up 2 of the big alpha males, but I had just gotten kicked out the door and banished. So I already felt like the target was on my back. So it's a little bit different situation at that point in time. With Memphis, I think he's going to feel like he's safe. And so if I was in Memphis's shoes, trying to make a decision, I would probably go for the softer targets, I think, with the idea that if anyone wins veto, if anyone wins that safety competition, I can always put one of the big targets up as the back door, even if it's not planned, put them up and still take out someone big if I need to do something like that.
Yeah. What is your advice on people that's going to play Big Brother? When should you see right now? It's just not smart right off the bat. It's, because you never know what's going to happen. When should you wait to be like, okay, these are my targets?
Yeah,
you just put them up.
Yeah, it's so hard, because I think it has to be based on how much of a target you think yourself is. If you're comfortable that you're laying low and you're okay, man, don't do what you need to do to help yourself in the game, but don't throw yourself out there as a big target in the beginning. Let other people take the heat. Let other people be the targets. But if you feel like you're right there on the bottom of that totem pole and you're getting ready to be facing being on the block yourself, man, take your shot. I would never want to go out of this game without thinking I at least did what I had to do to try to put them out the door.
Got to take that shot, man. And it's interesting watching David, because David, I think he right now he's laying super, super low. We just starting to talk about him right now. I can see to where, because we don't really know how David plays. Nobody really knows how he plays the game, which is super dangerous. Hence, heroes versus villains with Russell. Yeah. So when you don't know how someone plays, that you kind of overlook them very easily.
Yeah.
So
and he is David's very perceptive. From what I saw while he's in the house with us, he's athletic. He's gonna win some. Now, he didn't do so well this evening. He went out on the very first question, but he's gonna win some competitions. I'm comfortable with that. Even though he's new, he already has some connections in the house. Bailey and Davon have said they're going to try to protect him as much as they can. I know Nicole Anthony's going to protect him. Seems like a lot of people in that house like David, and because he is new, people aren't seeing him as a threat. So it's easy just to overlook him. And he's playing up on that as well. David knows more than he's letting on. He's been asking some questions about how does this work. He's playing dumb to reinforce the idea that he doesn't even deserve to be there. So why would you waste your HOH sending me out the door? And I think that's a good strategy. Now, somewhere down the road, he's going to have to take control. He can't, if he does that from start to finish, even if he makes it to the very end, he'll never win the prize because he doesn't have a resume to justify giving them the vote. So at some point, you have to jump in there and make your moves and get more aggressive. But for the early part of the game, I think he's doing just what he needs to be doing.
So definitely. But you played with him. Can you remember any points and times, like why was he voted out so early? You know, did he get too aggressive, or what was the reasoning?
No, you know, really, he wasn't ever voted out, Russell. He was banished along with myself and 2 others, and we all had to fight to get back in house, go through a dark maze and everything. And the person who didn't make it out was banished. And so, unfortunately, David just was the last person out of the maze. So he was sent out of the house. 4 weeks later, it was a battle back competition, you know, an island of extinction type setup. And so one person came back in, and I won that competition head to head with David and 2 others again. So it wasn't because of social that David went out the door. It's just because he lost a couple of competitions. And that very first banishment, he and myself and one other person had all volunteered trying to be the camp director, kind of the first type of HOH. And the vote went against us. That was within the first few hours of the house. So that was justification. That was an excuse to put all of us on the block. So, yeah, David just never really got a chance to play the social game. It was all competitions that eventually spelled out his fate.
Right. So it's really nobody knows how he plays. No. Even you guys really get to see how he would play the game.
Yeah, he came back in and we got to spend a couple of weeks with us. And by the end of that, I mean, everyone's saying, man, David's a great guy. He's a nice guy. His social game's on point. I think he will. Now, I say he's playing a great game, but I also think there's a little bit. I think there may be a little of intimidation because he knows that he hadn't played the same game as everyone else, and so I think he probably is just trying to get the whole Big Brother experience. He's still trying to get that wrapped around him, and so he's probably even a little more cautious and shy than strategy would suggest. But I think that changes, Russell.
Right. Yeah, I think it does too. Right now, if it does change, it shows how great of a game he's playing right now. Yeah. Like if he turns it, if he can turn it up, and people are like, man, we didn't even see this coming.
I'm waiting for this
to see him go straight.
Yeah. I'm waiting for him to win his first HOH, and suddenly he gets up into the HOH room. He makes a power decision. He brings in some of these people from different alliances and groups, and all of a sudden he's controlling that game for a little bit, and he's putting the fear of God into a couple of people in that house.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how he plays if he wins this HOH, because I'm rooting for him to win. I have my few that I want to win. I wouldn't be mad at all if David ends up by winning this game. So now we have Tyler. Man, Tyler is having an alliance with. What do you think of type of gameplay? Because in the world of Survivor, that is a bad gameplay.
Well, I know it. And here's the deal. Last count I had, Russell, I think Cody had 6 final 2s. Tyler had 5 final 2 agreements with people. And last season 20, Tyler had a lot of final 2s with people, and it kind of burned them at the end when people started comparing notes and all that. And Tyler said, I'm not playing that game this year. I'm not doing that again. But it seems to me that this year a lot of people have approached Tyler instead of him approaching other people.
Right.
And whether it's Big Brother or Survivor, someone comes to you and says, I want you to be part of my alliance. You never say no. So, hell yeah, I want to be part of your group. And so he's kind of gotten roped into it, whether intentional or not. And we'll see how that plays out in the end. There are people playing so hard right now, it could be that no one's going to really hold it too much against him if they find out that he made agreements with a lot of other people, because it seems like everyone is doing it. A lot of people are doing it right now. But having said that, it could certainly burn him if the right people start comparing notes.
Yeah. And I might, at the end of the day, I don't know if this is going to be bite me in the ass saying this, but Bailey is playing a great game at this point. She's even taking her anger for Tyler and making it like, okay, we need to work together instead of fight. So if she can do this, man, if she could, people are waiting for her to explode.
Yeah.
She didn't only explode the last time she played Big Brother, she exploded on the challenge. So it's in her wheelhouse to explode and go, just lose it. We're seeing right now the press when the heat is in the kitchen. I want to see if she can actually keep calm and stay the course she's playing right now. It's impressive to watch her actually tell Tyler that they can work together and put all that to the side and work and go forward. But like I said, the heat hasn't hit yet. So do you think that when the heat does hit, do we see what we always see from Bailey, or does she keep it cool?
That's where we're going to get to see how much a player has evolved from their past season to this current season, because you're right. I've always been of the opinion that you got to take the emotion out of the game. You just have to look at the logistics, the operations, and get rid of that other stuff. And it's easy not to be too upset when you're backing against the wall. When it is, if you can still play the game and keep the emotion as much as possible out of it, then you're so much further ahead. So I don't know, Russell. We'll see. But Bailey and Davon both, I think, are playing an amazing game right now. They've got so many connections with both sides, but they're so tight with each other. And I think they're in a position where they're going to be making a lot of decisions going forward about who goes home when two people are on the block. I think they're going to be the deciding votes. And so they're going to have a lot of leverage for this early to middle part of the game. So now I really admire their gameplay so far. I'm excited to see how they do it.
Yeah. Devon's she's playing an amazing game. But with Bailey, if you see Bailey in a final two, if she's actually sitting there in the final two and she didn't blow up or anything, she stayed level-headed the entire game, then she's the winner. Like it's because when you see someone's gameplay, nobody's playing any differently than they played before. Nobody.
Yeah.
Except at this point, except for Bailey. Because she's playing, everybody's like but she hasn't been in any trouble lately. So we'll see what happens when she gets in trouble. It's gonna be very interesting.
I'm excited to see it. It's gonna be fun.
Hey man, I ain't gonna lie. When I watch these challenges and I see people riding bananas like they're in some kind of sex video, I'm not all for. I don't see myself the king of Survivor, self-proclaimed king of Survivor, meanest to ever play the game, doing a banana, riding a banana.
Yeah, it's a little different swimming out on platforms and lifting big sacks of coconuts and all. I had to put some of my humility aside and just embrace the experience and do some of the goofy stuff. That's just Big Brother. It's summertime experiences.
Right. I mean, I get, if I played, of course, I'd ride the banana with the best of them. I'd ride that banana. But it's funny to watch, when they have to dress up in these suits and all this stuff that they have to do. It's hard for me to think if I was in that house, I'd do it for sure. Yeah. But it would feel funny.
It's definitely different. And here's the thing about those HOH competitions. There's so much variety. You can have the athletic events, you can have the mental challenges, and sometimes it's nothing but just a random throw a ball in a hoop type competition. So there is never a time where there may not be some person you completely unexpected to win that HOH and completely change the power in there. But yeah, it's always, because we never knew, Russell, what the event was going to be until we walked out in the backyard. Sometimes we'd have costumes on and I'd be looking down saying, I don't know, but this is going to be a squirrely little competition based on what I'm wearing right now.
Right. Oh, no. So we'll talk about one more person here, and that is Danny. We know that she plays an aggressive game. Well, I did say that not too many people are changing their games. It's hard to tell right now. We do see a lot of the same games with a lot of people, but she may be another one that's not really, playing in that much of an aggressive strategic game. at this point. Do you think that a lot of people are saying, "Oh, she's going to be gone because of her dad, Evil Dick," and I'm like, I don't know about that. I mean, we don't even hear much of that type of talk.
Yeah, I think he's not in the house, and it's been long enough that I think people aren't going to use that one way or the other necessarily against her. If anything, there may be people that underestimate her game by saying, "Well, you know, that one time where you came in second, your dad was there to support you and all that." So
Right.
it may even help her to some degree. I think she's okay with that part. I think she played a season after her dad was in there, and so I think she's isolated enough from him. I think she's fine with that.
Yeah. So I like the way she's playing right now. Right now nothing's really happening. You know, it's all, roses and rose beds. Like, it's just a wonderful family, and everybody's can't.
Lots of kissing and hugging. Yeah.
It could stay that way if they put up Ian and Nicole Anthony, but I don't want it to stay that way. I want firework, even though even though I don't like Janelle, I wanted Janelle to win the HOH because I want fireworks, and I know she's the one that would put up fireworks. So let's see what happens. You know,
I don't want anyone to ever feel so comfortable and so cocky sitting inside that house. And I had to deal with some of that last season where there was that big alliance who just thought they ruled the world and could do no wrong. And I was an underdog then, and I was glad to see that thing change, a little bit. I want to see it change again this week. There's no one in that house I dislike. I really like all the people in there. But because I'm not in there, man, I want the fireworks to go. I want people taking pot shots at each other. I don't want a single person in there thinking that next week I may not be on the block. No one needs to feel safe. They should be on edge from start to finish if they want to win that money.
Right. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It was fun. We're going to have this Surviving Big Brother. That's the name of this show, live. We can talk about what's happening right now. It's just, like we said, it's all hugs and kisses, and nobody's really doing anything, drastic where everybody's like, "Oh, wow, look what just happened." Yeah. We can't wait for that moment. So next week we're going to have another guest. I'm thinking it's going to be Rachel Raleigh. We're trying to confirm that right now. So then we're going to go further, and each week we're going to have a different Big Brother alum come on and talk about the show. But man, I appreciate you coming on. I've met Cliff personally. We went to an event, an actual Survivor event, and we watched Survivor together. So that was fun. That's when I really, and not just the good guy on TV, a good guy in real life. I appreciate you coming on my show, man. Anything you need from me, you have my. I'll help you out, whatever you need.
I appreciate it. And once this COVID stuff gets wrapped up, Russell, we need to go hang. We'll watch some of these shows, and we'll shoot the bull just a little bit more.
Football.
Oh, I'm so ready.
Football's coming. We can go watch.
Keeping the fingers crossed.
Bars around here. Definitely.
I'm
ready,
guys.
We appreciate you guys for watching. Yes. We appreciate you guys for watching. Subscribe. We're just getting into the Big Brother world. I know a lot of Survivor people that hate Big Brother. They're actually unsubscribing because they don't want me to talk Big Brother. But I am going to talk Big Brother because this is a channel. We're going to talk about.
It's all about strategy. It's just a different platform right now.
Right. So we're trying to get the Big Brother fans interested in what we're doing. We have a show called Reality with TEA at the end. Every day at noon. You can check that out. If you like spoilers, check that out because there is spoilers involved in that. We have a lot of things going on with the Big Brother world. So again, if you haven't subscribed, like it, and comment below. It helps the channel out a lot. Again, Cliff, I appreciate you coming on, man. And until next time, that's all we got. and we still in the Big Brother world are gonna keep hope alive, even
That's
with
right.
Big Brother.
SKD